Well, with all of the turmoil in Africa, there's unfortunately numerous places where Al-Qaeda can spread through there. So one of our principal concerns is working with the established governments to try to help them solve their problems, provide stability and security, to reduce that probability that the Al-Qaeda could root in there. But again, the mechanism for that's going to look much more like what this PRT is doing than sending military forces in to do things, because that's not the appropriate way to go solve this problem. So if you looked at the makeup of AFRICOM, it'll look like this PRT on a grand scale. It's a mix of civilian and military, all working towards governance, nation building, stability and security, as opposed to military things like CENTCOM. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now we have some active efforts going on in Africa, but very small and localized on the counterterrorism. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Who else got a question?
I guess kind of piggyback on that, sir. This is my fourth deployment. Basically a third of my time so far has been deployed. And I haven't done an Air Force deployment. And talking about, the future of maybe Africa or the kind of stuff we're doing here. How do our Air Force competencies, core competencies, kind of adapt to the newer type environments that we're having to work in?
Think about what you're doing as an engineer. If you were back home in a stateside engineering unit, you'd be 50% man. You'd have a skeletal budget because we're going through some very lean times Air Force-wise, and we're not building a divot. So you would not be exercising your core skills at any great rate. Over here, money's not our problem. Manpower's not your problem. I mean, you may want more people, but you've got everybody that you're authorized to have, and you've got more projects you know to do. So you are getting to exercise your core skills and competencies at a far greater level than you would be if you were at home. Now, having said that, I'm not sure, the model of what is a standard Air Force deployment, and this is a new world. The Air Force I grew up in, my first 16 years in the Air Force was the peacetime training Air Force. I mean, it was all about, we would fight tooth and nail to see who got to go on that one deployment to an overseas country. We'd go on every 2 years. So in your 2.5, 3, I'm talking from the community I grew up as in the fighter world. You go on one overseas deployment about every 2 to 2.5 years to your COB, your contingency overseas base, for the big European war against the Russians. And you would fight tooth and nail, because if you happen to be off at school or in a special project, you might get knocked off that list. And you would never get overseas. That's not the way it is these days. I mean, depending upon your career field, you're going to go once or twice or 3 times in a normal tour at a stateside location. And you're going to go do your Air Force job. Unless you're one of these jet and IA taskings, then you may go do something somewhat unique. There's usually some thread to what you were trained to do in your Air Force specialty to the tasking we send you, but not always. But I'm not sure I could say that there is a standard model anymore for a deployment. Now you raise a very interesting point. How well does our Air Force recognize and value this myriad of interesting things that our folks are doing? I have to be honest with you and tell you, not as well as we should. But I think we have no choice over time to learn how to value these different things in the grander scheme of how it develops people and enables them for greater responsibility and authority, because it's the nature of our Air Force today. We have 330,000 airmen, about 275 of whom are 275,000 are deployed. And I couldn't tell you how many of that 275,000 have actually deployed, but I'd say it's probably most of them. That's a different Air Force than the one I grew up in. I mean, maybe 5% of the Air Force had ever been deployed before in the Air Force, my first 16 years of the Air Force. So it's a different world. So I'm not sure if it's a worry that sparked your question, I'm not sure the worry
QRF to the staging area, QRF to the staging area.
I'm not sure it's a valid worry. it's an issue. We do have to, our culture has to learn how to understand, recognize the value, but it's the norm now, it's not the exception. Did that answer your question?
I guess the only other piece that would be just preparation for the station, because I do think I'm getting better experience for my specific group.
Well, if I could, sir, one of the things that it goes with dwell time back home. You've been on several of these deployments, and I bet you've gone back to the same training a couple of times before you come out. One of the things, so one of the things that the boss has taken on to sort of push back to the big Air Force is, you know, you went to CST, did you go to CST? Okay, so if you were to deploy in, I'm not saying you are on the list, I don't think. But anyway, maybe there's a way that you can get credit for the time that you did that the first time so that your spin-up time isn't as long.
We're looking at currency for combat skills training. So if you went and if you're on a one-to-one and you're going every 6 months, you don't have to go through a month of CST every year. That you just go do 2 days of recurrency, maybe do that at home station, and off you go. They're trying to give you the dwell. You know, 'cause our dwell is a little bit misleading, especially on poor JTACs. So they're out in the field 6 months, they go home. They're 2 months at home. The remaining 4 months, they're TDY, doing the things they have to do to be current qualified to go back as a JTAC. It's appalling. So, anyway, Jack's exactly right.
Now, you know where that came from? I kid you not. That idea came from airmen sitting in a room like this with the boss asking them, hey, do you guys have any questions? And someone raised their hand and said, this is my
Last
third.
October, I had a guy who was just really pissed off. Had just gotten there, had gone through CST. He said, I did this last March, and they made me do it again in August when I came out here. So I vented his spleen and then got his name afterward, went and figured out, no kid, he actually had to do exactly what he said. Listen, I think the helicopters are winding themselves up here, and the last thing I want to do is piss those guys off. So, are there any questions that I missed that somebody really was going to raise your hand and ask? All right, let me just finish with telling you. I see lots and lots of airmen. There's 28,000 of them here in CENTCOM. My job is to get out there and meet them all. So I stay busy. But everywhere I go, I say thanks for serving. Thanks for putting on a uniform and doing what you're doing. 99.9% of Americans never do anything to earn the freedom they enjoy every day. That's okay. That's the society we all grew up being part of. You have the opportunity to go do whatever it is you want to do, be what you want to be. It's not perfect. You know, it's not by any means a flawless system, but it's better than any other on the planet. That I can tell you. I've been to 198 countries in the world, and I've probably been to 2/3 of them. And you can count on the fingers of one hand how many countries you would have a similar opportunity to what you have in ours. And the reason you have those opportunities is because 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, somebody like you put on a uniform, went, fought, and bled and died for their country to preserve that freedom. So here we are, we made our choices. Well, I've got 3 granddaughters, I've got 3 daughters, all of whom are going to growing up, going to get to make those choices because all of you chose to put on those uniforms. Now, I have no intention for you to fight or die for that, but the fact that you're putting on your uniform and serving out here doing this means my kids and my grandkids will have those choices. So as a parent and a grandparent, I say thanks. Thank you for serving. You can be very proud of what you're doing. You are making a difference. And when you're bouncing your grandkids on your knee someday, you can look them in the eye and say, hey, the reason you were able to do this is because I went. So thank you for doing it. Thanks for serving.